together for a meal tonight.
Hello, I'm back again. Today I'm going to cook spaghetti with meatballs, and I'm going to make what I think is an amazing sauce to go with it, including fresh black Russian tomato, cherry tomatoes, and a really good quality canned tomato. I'm going to put in there another one of my secrets, which is a reduction of red wine vinegar and caster sugar, chilies, shallots and one onion, an egg and some fresh herbs. First thing I'm going to do is turn on the oven to 200 degrees centigrade so we can roast these tomatoes, the rosemary and the onions, and get the caramelization happening, get so much more flavour out of them, and then we'll go from there. I'm using one reasonably large onion and a shallot. So you've seen me do this many times, so I won't bore you with it. I'll get back to you when it's done. What I am going to do is not chop these up fine because they are going to go into the oven. So I'm going to roughly chop them up and put them in the oven dish with the tomatoes, because at the end, once they come out of the oven, they will go through a sieve, a Mouli or a food processor, so there's no need to cut them fine. So basically just cut them in chunks. And that's perfectly fine. Get rid of this. And we'll get back to you when it's done. I've got the shallots, the onions, the garlic and the rosemary in there. I'm going to put in the cherry tomatoes whole because, well, if I cut them they're going to lose too much liquid. I want to keep that liquid. Drizzle them lightly with some olive oil. And whoops a daisy, typical salt to hasten the process and draw out the juices from the tomatoes as well. So there you go, there you have it. Now this is going to go in a preheated oven for 20 minutes and then it'll come out and we'll take the next step. So let's put that in the oven and we'll go from there. Now before I put it in the oven, a good teaspoon of chili seeds will go in there as well. Maybe a little bit more. And give that a mix, just roughly. And of course, now it's ready to go in the oven. In here I've got half a cup of red wine vinegar and 2.5 teaspoons of fine caster sugar. Give them a good mix. And what I want to do is I want to cook that slowly in this little pot here. And reduce it. So what I'll be left with is a very pungent addition to the tomato sauce. So put this on a very low heat and keep a really good eye on it because you definitely don't want to burn this, and keep mixing it to make sure that all the sugar is dissolved. That's the secret. That and these, but we'll get to these in a minute. While we're waiting for the tomatoes and the vinegar to reduce and the tomatoes to cook, I'll prepare the bread by cutting the crust off. and they will go in the milk, soak up that milk, and that will add a creamy texture to the meatballs. So whilst that's soaking, I'll start preparing the meatballs. I've got 500 grams of lean beef. I'm using lean beef because that's what I like, but you really should use a beef that's got a bit of fat in it because that means more flavour. Anyway, in this goes 1 egg. You can never break these things. A 100 grams of parmesan. Some olive oil. Pepper and salt. I'm going to let it sit there for a minute. I'm going to go and check on my vinegar. Probably half a tablespoon of fennel seeds in there. Stops magic. And some panko breadcrumbs. And we can adjust that. I know I'm going to use the breadcrumbs and the soaked bread. I'm aware of that. So the bread now, you squeeze it dry as much as you can. In it goes. It's soaked up a lot of milk. Got food is tactile. I love it. And once that's done, I'll mix it all together, and we'll get back to you later. Okay, the vinegar's done. Not sure if you can see it. That's all there is, just of that, but it's a syrup, and it's sweet. And the acid in the vinegar is so pungent, amazing. Well, this will go in the tomato sauce, so that can stay on the side now. And there's the breadcrumb mixture, the meatball mixture. So now there's no other way, just do it. Mix it all together as thoroughly as you can. If the mixture feels a little bit wet, still a little bit wet, you can add more of the panko breadcrumbs in there. You don't want it to be dry, but you don't want it to be overly wet either. I think that should be okay. I'm not going to add any more breadcrumbs to it. So the meatball mixture is done, so you can just sit there, and next thing I'll do now is check on my tomatoes. The tomatoes and the onions and what have you are almost done. Now the smell of that rosemary coming out of the oven, don't know where to start. So what I'll do now is I'll make the meatballs, and I'll get them ready to go back in the oven as soon as I take the other tomatoes out. Similar type size meatballs, nice and small, don't want them big. Easy. I'm back, and there's the tomatoes. They've broken, the skin's broken, there's juices, the smells are amazing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this through a Mouli, and I'll show you what I do, because I don't want the seeds, I just want the juice, and then I'll mix that with the canned tomatoes. Now if you don't have a Mouli, all you do is just put it through a blender, and then you can sieve it. Same thing. So I've transferred it into this bowl. So, and what I'll do now is I'll cook the meatballs. So they can go in. And while they're cooking, it won't take long, I'll grind these and then start the tomato sauce. Now, why do I cook my meatballs in an oven and not fry them? Well, it's I think it's simple. They're just healthier. There's a lot less oil, even though I'm using olive oil. But, and I'm using, like I said, hard smart mince. So there's the meatballs. They're all in. And they will go in the oven. I'll put these in a few at a time. And grind them. And what that's doing, of course, is taking out all that flavour and it's coming out the other end very thick. Like I said,
non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girando, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor.
and what's come out is a thick paste that is just jam-packed with flavour.
Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor. Non più avrai questi bei panacchini, quel cappello leggero galante.
So the sauce is cooking, the meatballs are in the oven, so it won't take long for them to get done. So I'm going to cook my pasta. I'm cooking only pasta for one. Don't be shy with the salt.
Chioma quell'olio brillante, quel vermiglio d'onesco color, quel vermiglio d'onesco color. Non più avrai quei pennacchini, quel cappello, quella chioma, quell'olio brillante. Non chiudrai farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girando, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo,
Spaghetti with meatball in a tomato sauce. It is unbelievable. Looks amazing, to be honest, but tastes even better. There's the finished dish. Just like to very quickly say thank you for watching. Be healthy and good, and I'll see you next time. Okay then, goodbye for now. It was absolutely delicious.